Hi, Shalom, and welcome to another edition of our Daily Bread. I'm Messianic Torah, and this week's Parashat is Tzav. It's the second Parashat of the book of Vayikra, also called Leviticus. And this is video 2. My full message is called Priests and Commandments for 2014-15, and this is the second video. The first one was called Moshe Commands Aharon and His Sons. You can see the link to the previous video if you haven't caught that, and there'll be a link to the next video in the series. There's 6 total points to this message. So this message is called The Fire Shall Never Go Out. And this week's parasha, we already talked about the idea of kings and priests and the responsibility that comes with it. But now I'm going to talk a little bit about the concept in this week's parasha where it talks about the fire never going out. In the remez, or spiritual patterns, the spiritual definitions, fire can be a model of testing in the scriptures. And so this idea, and the altar can be this place of judgment where things come before YHWH to either be accepted or not. It's like this offering place. And so when we see this concept that the fire shall never go out, we see a couple of things. Number one, we can see that this testing shall never stop, right? So to the people who are serving, the priests, who are serving YHWH, the testing shall never cease. Okay? And this, in the Remez, it's a great lesson that can be taught about complacency and about the idea of being good enough. So in the scriptures, like even among the different groups, I mean, if you look at the different religions, we can look at Judaism and say, you know, they're the chosen people, you know, they're this. I mean, I like that they focus on commandments and mitzvot, but sometimes they can lean on this concept of being the chosen people, and it's kind of like saying, well, I'm a priest, so you're a priest. Then you have commandments that go along with that, such as never letting the fire go out upon the altar. It comes with a responsibility. It's not about the title. And the responsibility here is the fire shall never go out, so your testing shall never go out. In other words, you don't sit back and become complacent about where you are. You know, a lot of Messianics, you take a look at other religions there, you have Messianics, you have Christians. Some of the Christian doctrine is the concept with salvation is that you're saved, and then for many, you know, there's a lot of variations in Christian theology, but a common thread in many of them is that, you know, once you're saved, you're always saved. And, you know, you say your little sinner's prayer, and, you know, you accept Jesus in your heart, and all of a sudden you're good. And in a way, it's kind of like saying, well, I threw one log on the fire, and when it burns out, it's no big deal, because we don't have to have fire constantly burning. Because the concept is that responsibility then stops, and your testing kind of stops. That once you get admission into the kingdom, you're saved, and it doesn't really matter what else happens. You know, it's a kind of extra. It's not a requirement, and you know, it won't impact your standing with God, which isn't even logical relationship-wise. Even people, you know, interacting with other people know that what you do matters. What you do in your society matters. If you go out and you break the law, they'll put you in jail. You know, to take that type of thinking and that type of doctrine would be to just wander into the street, you know, wander into the store and take something that doesn't belong to you and, you know, run somebody over and not care and think that, well, because I'm a U.S. citizen, nothing I do matters, right? I mean, that's the type of pattern that type of thinking would create. It doesn't even work in the regular world, let alone in the spiritual world. And I think that a lot of people can realize that, and they can say, okay, well, I get it. And some of that creeps over into Messianics, that many bring over Christian theology, or you know, it's not just Christian theology, but they illustrate one of the ways that thinking doesn't work, in my opinion. But this concept of complacency, in that we don't want to have to be diligent, and we don't want to have to be responsible. We don't want to have to be constantly keeping that fire going, you know. And to me, that's disingenuous. It's like if you're just looking for a payout from God, you know, that's like idolatry, right? You could just go to a little idol shop and buy your favorite idol and worship it, and you're pretty much done the idol isn't going to require much from you. It only requires from you what you say, what you imagine it requires of you. And that's how a lot of people treat religion. So the fact is, I believe that when you're serving the true Elohim, the true God, that the fire, we're commanded that the fire shall never go out. So it's not about being good enough. It's not about getting done and finished so you can sit down and stop working. It's about a constant refinement and going over yourself and reevaluating and letting that fire burn and test you and test every bit of you and strengthen you so that you're constantly looking not for how great you are, how finished you are, how great God is, how done everything is. People, come Mashiach now, and they just want, a lot of that stuff comes, in my opinion, from the wrong place. Because the reality is thank you for this time. Thank you for this time I can refine myself while I'm alive. I can try and grow, and I can learn, and I can, look at what's wrong with me, not what's wrong with other people, but what's wrong with me. I remember I was online, and somebody had posted on there because I shared a video from Michael Rood, and they were like, "Oh, he's a false prophet, and he's a this, and he's a that," and and I said, "I don't know Michael personally," and I said, on my feed, I share Messianic stuff. It's not stuff that I share only because I agree with it. If I had to share things on social media I only agreed with, I wouldn't share anything, because I don't agree with anybody really 100% on things. And it doesn't mean that sometimes how I need to. As a matter of fact, we learn from each other because we can learn and we can grow and we can pick things we like and know that you're not dealing with Mashiach, you're not dealing with Messiah, you're dealing with imperfect people. So they might have some stuff right and other things wrong. We're all learning, we're all students, nobody's finished yet. And you don't have to have that expectation. So I told him, I said, I just because I share something doesn't mean I endorse it. Otherwise, I'd share nothing. You want my opinions? You can listen to them on my videos. That's my opinion. Everything else I share from anybody else, it's as a resource. And so he replies and says, "Oh, we're supposed to protect against wolves among the flock and all this." And I just think, who can protect? See, even to think that you're the protector means that somehow your judgment is so good that you know the difference between what's right and what's wrong. That you figured it all out and you have the judgment of YHWH so that you could look at another person and say, well, this is right, but this is wrong, that's wrong, no, this and that. And it's a bit of pride, in my opinion, that comes up to make you think that you can judge other people. Doesn't mean don't have judgment. You should have judgment for yourself. But when you're going to start to proclaim that this person's right, this person's wrong, and all of that, you got to be careful, because you're making a lot of assumptions. I can critique things, but I don't state them as emphatic judgments that this is right and this is wrong. I can't, because I don't have complete judgment. At the end of the day, you have to leave the room for your own ignorance, and your own humility should take over. So you don't need to go out and say this guy's a false prophet and that guy's a false prophet and all that. It's just worthless. And it also comes from this kind of embedded thinking that's been put there, I think, from churchianity and from religion, is that you have to go out and you can't share anything with anybody unless it's truth, or what you think is truth. Well, what you think today is truth, you might not think is truth a year from now. And the reality is it treats people like they're dumb sheep. But the thing is that who makes you so wise that you're the only smart one and you have to protect all of the flock? People have their own brains. They're going to use them. They have the internet. They're going to see all kinds of different things. Somehow it's like this crazy way of thinking that people are somehow sheltering people by, well, I'm not going to share that because, that'll protect them from hearing this information. No, what protects somebody is reading and studying the Torah so that when they hear all of the different information, they can make a determination of whether that's true or not. Not sheltering them and trying to keep them away from it, which you can't do anyway. So it's like, hey, I don't treat people like they're stupid. Here's a resource, go read it. You should find things you agree with and things you disagree with. I don't need to hide you from everything that I disagree with, and who am I to tell you what's right and wrong? It's just not a good way of thinking. But this is that concept that the fire shall never go out. You'll always be testing things. That's the idea behind the Bereans. You're going to listen and test. It doesn't say, oh, well, we have to protect those Bereans from the wolves that are going to come in. You know? That's not the way it goes. It's called no. If you want to be protected, study the scriptures for yourself. That's your only protection. And don't think you know it all. Hope this has been a blessing. Till next time, the next video in this series is called the Priest's Portion. And there'll be links to it there. Hit subscribe and share. Let me know your thoughts, and we'll go from there. Shalom.